Forbes magazine ranks her TED Talk among its top 4 of all time. Audiences riveted by her chilling story of being an aspiring teenage model who had just landed in France when 2 men offered her a ride and abducted her.
They drugged me. They took me to an abandoned construction site and beat me mercilessly. I had no idea I had made a sound when kicked. They drugged me again and raped me repeatedly. They dumped me in a park in Nice 3 days later.
Kidnapping survivor and resilience expert Cheryl Hunter now travels the world speaking and writing about how we can turn our setbacks into success. She joins us now with advice about coping during the pandemic. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Just hearing part of your story there is just gut-wrenching. For people in this time that are feeling isolated and alone, relate to your experience when it comes to facing circumstances that they didn't create and they didn't choose. How are you helping people through that?
Well, it's a very common experience when we face these kinds of circumstances like we're dealing with in abundance today, to hope to get back to life like it was. You hear that a whole lot. People keep referencing that. And in my work over the past couple decades with thousands of survivors, it's a common thing people say, I just need to get back to life like it was. But unfortunately, that's a myth. We'll never be able to do that. You can't unwind the clock. So then it's incumbent upon us to find something, as implausible as that may sound, that we can embrace about what is so right now. For some, it may be as simple as, well, I get to see my kids more, or I get to work from home. But it's imperative that we find something to embrace about the current reality that gives us a toehold in to making it a new normal from which we can create life again.
You say while you were modeling in Japan, you had a life-changing moment with an elderly couple who taught you the Japanese principle of wabi-sabi. Tell us about that.
The Japanese principle of wabi-sabi states that the beauty or the perfection of any object lies in its flaws. Now, as they told me about this, they were referencing a table that had the eyes of the wood left in it and big dents. But as I was rubbing my fingers over the dents in this wood, silently plotting my revenge against the men in France, I thought, what I found over the years is most assuredly it can. And embracing the imperfections and flaws of our current reality is one of the ways that we can stop the experience of life spinning out of control. It is imperfect. And yet, if we can find the perfection in it and embrace the wabi-sabi in life as it is, we'll stand a far better chance of creating, again, this new normal for ourselves.
Dr. Phil recently dedicated entire episodes on his TV show and podcast to interviewing you about resilience. What did you share with viewers and listeners, and why do you believe that staying silent about our pain is the worst thing that we can do?
It was many years after being free again that I finally decided to share my story. And when I did, the people that I spoke to started coming out and saying, oh my gosh, I've had something happen that I've never told anybody. There's a common phenomenon, which is to hide those things we think are wrong with us, that are broken, our so-called flaws, right? But as soon as we authentically speak about those things, it gives permission to the people listening to also share their so-called flaws. And it's the experience of speaking about these things that we've previously held in liberates both the speaker and the listener. Dr. Phil put it brilliantly. He said, monsters live in the dark. And when we hide these things about ourselves, that shame can cause them to increase in size as they fester. So I recommend that you find a trusted confidant with whom to share your authentic experience of what is life like for you right now. It's different for each of us, but if we can share, we deeply connect to others.
Well, thanks for sharing your story with us. Cheryl Hunter is an author and resilience expert. Her episode on the Dr. Phil Show called Rape and Escape will air nationally on September 3rd, and be sure to check out Deschelles' website and follow her on Instagram and Facebook.